So, Christmas right around the corner.
Yep.
Are you a procrastinator, or are you like get it out of the way type guy?
Man, I'm definitely not a get it out of the way type guy, but we don't have a huge list to shop for, so
Yeah.
a lot of Amazon. This year, actually, my wife did some Amazoning, but I did mostly local gift cards. So most of the people in our family, if this airs before Christmas, you guys got gift cards. So.
Yeah, man, it's weird. I'll start out hot like October. I'm like, oh man, and then I'm like, I'm way ahead. I need to stop.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it's days out.
Oh yeah, the best thing right now is I find it very comical that with the year that we've had of most people not really having to do a whole lot of anything.
Yeah.
People are bitching about their packages being late.
Yeah.
It's like you guys had all year
Yeah.
to order Christmas presents. Like, why are they late? You know, it's like the only year where they probably didn't have to work every single day.
Yeah,
So.
that's true. Yeah, I'm a big gift card guy, especially my dad, because he will go to Costco, Walmart, wherever, every weekend. So to buy for him is nearly impossible because he has everything he wants.
Yeah.
And like literally before we started this, my sister called me and she was like, "What are you getting, Dad?" I'm like, "I don't know." She goes, "I'm clueless. I'm freaking clueless." But yeah, the package thing is weird right now. I have a couple still cross my fingers on.
Really?
But yeah, like you said, there's not a big group. I used to have to buy for a bunch, and it's kind of dwindled down to like 7 people.
Yeah.
My parents are
that's about what it is. I mean, we get all of our nieces and nephews stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of was weird, like going to UPS today and like shipping all of my nieces and nephews' gifts off. Actually, It was yesterday, but yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, like
it kind of takes the fun out of it, you know.
Where they got to ship to?
2 of them are in Bowling Green, and then 2 are down in Texas, Houston.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ship ours to my brother, and then we'll do like a like FaceTime, and then watch them open. Which
that's cool.
It's cool, but it's like you still don't feel like you're there. You're kind of like, yay, but I don't know. It's different. But so how's the trail building coming?
Man, this year is really crazy. So just pretty much full bore this year. I mean, we started. I started the year down in Tennessee doing some private trails, and then once weather got good up here, we started building at Horns Hill. Mm-hmm. And I got 1 other operator and 3 hand crew people working there, and we started just knocking out some mileage of flow trail, some new stuff that they didn't have, and really expanded that place into something crazy. And then took a break. Around August, we broke off from there, and we did a project in downtown Columbus for Combo and PBR, and that was like 2.8 miles of cross-country trail, and then I think it was like 1,200 linear feet of like bike park skills, features, and things.
Nice.
A bunch of the prefab PBR stuff. We knocked that out in like a month, and then went back to. Did we go back to Horns? I think we might have gone. No, we went straight from there. We went to Doe Mountain down in Tennessee and built a big, like, 1.5 mile downhill trail, which that place is.
Where's that about? Where else?
It's down in the corner of Tennessee. It's about 45 minutes from Boone, North Carolina.
Oh, okay, yeah.
About 30 minutes from Damascus, Virginia.
Yeah, that's like no man's land, really.
Yeah, it was. We were down there. We built this like 1.5 mile, crazy, just downhill specific trail. It's in the middle of like an 8,000 acre OHV recreation area. So it's like just to get to it, like where the start of the trail is like 5.5 miles up the mountain.
Holy smokes.
And this trail just runs this crazy ridge line. We had to move rocks the size of cars, like by hand. Like there was no, like we showed up and the guy told us, like, we've been doing a bunch of work for a guy that's a PTBA member, and they hire us out to do all the building a lot of times, and that's kind of how this one was. And we get there on site and we walk it, and I'm like, dude, you ain't getting a machine in here. Like I get called to some crazy jobs when no one else will do it, but this one's not like a machine. You can't get a machine in here like this. It's literally on a ridge line, and just like the exposure was just way too crazy, you know. So
is this private property or public?
No, it's a Tennessee recreation area, like Doe Mountain Recreation Area is what it's called. But smack dab in the middle of 8,000 acres, there is one sweet downhill trail. So probably need an e-bike to get there because it's 5 miles and it's up. It's all uphill pretty much to get to it. So.
Really?
But they're working on expanding it next year some more. A UTV and a shuttle would be like the only way you could do it. Really, they're talking about doing some like enduro stage races on it though. So
you said like a mile long?
It's about, I think it was like 5,900 feet, so just a little over a mile.
Okay.
1.25-ish. So it's but like when the trail ends, where the trail ends, it's still another about 4.5 or 3.5 miles from there down to the parking lot. So they're just going to keep working and expanding the trails, and we walked some other parts of the property and gave them some ideas. So,
when you build, do you get a blank canvas, or it varies on the spot of like, hey, this is what you should do here, or does the customer client know what they're doing? Like in a sense, like does it more like, hey, here's your woods, we just want to end down there?
Perfect scenario is that.
Yeah.
They just say, here's what we have to work with, and here's the space we have. Go do what you do, you know. That doesn't always happen. A lot of times someone has already come in and flagged it. I mean, a lot of times there's a local land manager or a local bike club, say a Kimba or a Cora for Cincinnati area, that's already had some initiatives and tried to make something happen. So a lot of times there's already flags on the ground, and we try to respect that, but it's not always the easiest or best. I mean, I've had plenty of situations where you get hired to build a trail and you show up and it's already flagged out and corridors cut, and it's like not how you would have put the corridor, you know, but you're kind of stuck working with it. And I mean, you make it work, but it's not always your best work, you know? So, and most of the stuff I try to get into is design build. Yeah. Just because in the past it's just not as fun, you know? It'd be like, I don't know, maybe an artist or something, you know, getting a paint by number or something, you know,
right.
It's not, you're like, they probably could have done better, you know?
Yeah.
I like to just have full reign to flag how I like. I mean, everyone chooses their anchor trees and stuff different for features, and you could probably walk 10 different builders through the same set of woods and come up with 10 different trails. So,
well, when you are like getting ready to build, do you like ask the client like, hey, have all your permits and stuff ready before I start digging, or is that something you do? How does that work?
Man, that varies too.
Really?
Like sometimes, if it's a private job, a lot of times the homeowner or the private landowner will do all that. If it's a city job, honestly, a lot of the city jobs are all that's taken care of like beforehand.
Okay. And then like with costs and everything, they're like, hey, here's our budget and stuff like that, or Have you had a blank check yet?
I've not had a blank check yet. Horns has pretty much been a blank check just because of the way the hybrid style system we're doing. So those guys up there, they essentially bought all their own equipment. So all the equipment that we're using is theirs. We're just charging them an hourly rate to build the trail. They're paying for all the fuel. They're paying for the lodging. So that's been a great cost savings to them in the long run because they all have businesses, so they can use them in their businesses anyways.
Yeah.
Probably the craziest funding story that I have is we built some trails in 2018 in Nashville, and it was NICA trail, and it was almost 4 miles of trail, and they did the ride through punch out just to make sure, punch list, make sure that we had everything checked off, and they get to the truck, and one of the dudes walks over to his truck and comes back to the bedside and pulls out his checkbook and writes a check for $100,000, and he's like, I want you guys to build 4 more miles of that, but I want it to be a little gnarlier for adults. So now there's 8 miles down there in Nashville.
Really?
Yeah, right in Cedar Hill. But that was pretty crazy, because that was another scenario where I was working for another guy, and the PTBA dude was, he's a great builder, and I was just subbing out with him, and he kind of looked at me, and I looked at him, and it was February at that time, and we had just battled the worst rain and freeze thaw you could probably ever have to deal with trail building. And I mean, that last month we probably only got 6 days of work in just because of how crazy the weather got. But we had to get finished. We were so close, we just wanted to finish, and we were both kind of like we can definitely build 4 more miles, but we want to come back in the spring. We don't want to start another trail system now while this weather's here. So, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That's some pretty good validation. Yeah, that was worth it. Here's another, so.
So, you mentioned Horns. First, where's Horns located for people who don't know?
So Horns Hill is in Newark, Ohio. So it's about 35 minutes east of Columbus.
Okay.
So pretty good location, really. I mean, you can be to Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, in a couple hours, Snowshoe in a couple hours, Cleveland in a couple hours. So it's a pretty good spot.
So that was basically your baby of 2020 in a sense. I mean, that's where you spent most of your time. So before you started, they had trails. What fired it up that they wouldn't have said, let's build? Because I feel like I'm not gonna say it was stagnant because I didn't know the history, but it felt like it kind of just plateaued. Now it's just cranking up.
Yeah. So Horns Hill was the first trail that I ever machine built.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back in 2007. There was originally the front 4 trails. We built the first one in 2007, and then we built a couple more in 2007 and 2008. And they kind of went, they're still the original trails. I mean, there's a couple of, updates that have been done, but a lot of the berms on Trail 1, what we call Trail 1, which is, they call it Trail 2 now because of the way they're laid out on the property, but that trail's been relatively the same for over a decade.
Wow.
And that place went from about 2009 until last year. It went with virtually no maintenance, very little maintenance. And then a new kind of rider group, there's a YouTube channel, the Cinderbuds.
Yeah.
The Cherbini boys, they started working out there. Big Drop Bob Vivard, who's going to be 70 years old soon. He was one of the OG guys that helped get it started. He still rides out there and was super heavily involved in getting it going again. another dude named Roger Morgan was really big. Newer rider to the area, hadn't been riding very long at all. Just had a really good group of, like, the Cinderbud dudes are like marketing, social media people. Bob's a really good businessman and rider and knows a lot of the community, so he could, has a lot of connections and long relationships. Roger's the same way, has a construction business and hardworking dude. So they had all the things that they needed to make it happen. And we kind of sat down and like mapped some stuff out. We're like, let's get a mile of beginner flow trail built. Like, just make it a loop, because the front side's crazy. Like, that's gonna, you don't want to bring beginners onto that stuff. That's the shuttle side, So we took the whole back side, started making a bunch of loops and flow trails, and before you could even bat an eye, we had done the first 9 days. We did a 1.1 mile flow loop.
Nice.
Like, built it start to finish. People were riding it. And 10 days later, people were riding it, and it was over a mile long. And as soon as that happened, people realized like that the dudes at Horns Hill were serious about building some new shit, and they were 100% on board. Like, the city was on board, the local Licking County Foundation was on board, and I mean, when you talk about the fundraising button getting turned on, like, it did. Like, I mean, like, immediately it was like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, and like, before they could really even think about it, by the time we had phase 2 built and put in some bigger, like a 30-foot tabletop and some other stuff like that, like, by the time those first 2 phases were done, they had like 50 or 60 grand fundraised,
Yeah.
So we just kind of kept building, and
So they didn't have, before you built, they really didn't have like money saved. They just kind of said, here, we have a little bit, let's see what happens.
Yeah, so the major players threw in some money to get us started, and they had some, obviously they had the machines and everything already, and they basically just, I think they started with like 20 or 25 grand, so that they knew like they could go for X amount of weeks, with what our salaries were. And I mean, they didn't think in a million years that they were going to get a mile of trail done in 9 days.
Yeah.
But.
And what trail was that called?
That is, it's called the Playground Trail now. It was, everyone just calls it Phase 1.
Okay.
But
so,
there's so many trails out there now.
How much land, acres-wise, is out there?
It's 100 acres.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's, if you look at a map, about 70% of it is all like beginner and some blue stuff. And then there's just black trails, kind of sprinkled in there. A lot of the shuttle trails are like black, blue, because they're so steep. But there's one trail in the very back called Slim Shady, which is like, people are already calling it like the best jump trail in the Midwest. Like,
really?
Yeah, I mean, like, as soon as people saw it, like, there's people that literally saw a video and just like drove it just to see it. Like, people that couldn't even ride it, they're just like, we got to see this. It's only 3 hours from our house, But I mean, it's got big, steep tabletops. It's got hip jumps. It's got step-on, step-offs. It's got really big, like, nothing's like huge. Like it's not like Loose Fest huge,
Yeah.
It's through the woods, but still, like, the cool thing about it is like it's given a lot of people a lot of confidence because it's built to a degree where you really don't have to use your brakes. Like, you can trust it and jump it. There's some stuff you definitely want to push through instead of like yanking, but got a big massive step up at the end, and then a gnarly, like, big ladder drop that's like 8 feet wide, and it's about 10 foot, so
dang.
it's like, it's a legit trail. Like, in the spring when all the grass and stuff's in, like I can't wait to see. I mean, there's already tons of edits out there you can check from Slim Shady, but it's going to get better.
So when you built that trail, how much experience of building all that style of flow have you already had? Like, did you go into it like, I feel like I can do it, or are you 100% confident?
Yeah, I mean, we knew what we wanted to build. Going into it, like that section of the hill and stuff, like I even told some of the dudes that were the locals, I was like, man, like, because every time we built a new trail, they're pumped. Like, it's just something new to ride. And
yeah.
Like, they're like, man, it's just getting better. Every time I come out here, there's new stuff. I'm like, we're just like, man, wait until that stuff in the back, you know? It's going to be awesome. Because it was like not super steep hill, but it was a big enough side slope to where you could build jumps and stuff and get your dirt. And, I mean, it was one of those perfect scenarios where the guys were like, we want the biggest, baddest jump trail around. Like, you guys just go build it. That was all. I mean, that was the only thing they told us.
You're probably like, okay.
We want the best jump trail you can build us, you know?
Yeah.
So we're like, okay. Like, so
yeah.
After the first day, we had like three big jumps built. And dudes were already starting to session them and stuff. And then, like, the next day, we built this crazy, like, corkscrew, like, gap jump, and then a step-on, step-off, and a massive hip jump. And they're losing their minds, you know? So, I mean, that kind of stoke just keeps the builders super pumped, too, you know? So, and there's a ton of amazing riders in that area. Like,
yeah. I
mean, there's dudes within a half hour there. I'm probably a group of like 20 guys, and they all just completely shred. Like, I mean, it's insane. The whole, like, the energy there is just nuts. So.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody off topic, but I see people ride there all the time. I'm like, these people must live close. And I'm like, this is no man's land, Ohio.
Oh yeah, I mean, you get like Cam Reagan, Tommy Pellet, Jut Wood, which Jut's an OG BMXer. Like, that dude's been doing backflips and crazy stuff at the flow before, like, most of these guys riding now were born, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's, like, old school BMXer, but, like, he's really good friends with Tommy Zula. Like, I mean, so, like, Spencer Scott, like, the Cherubini boys, like, there's so many dudes up there that, like, ride, and they all shred. So, sorry if I left any names out up there, folks.
So besides like that's on private property, right? Or is that?
No, that's the city of Newark Park. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So has the city, since you've been getting kind of wild, have they said, wow, we're seeing more people in the town? Have you heard anything of that yet?
Yeah, so the city manager is actually, so the DoubleTree is not far from there. And they've already been getting a lot of reports of like, bikers coming in for the weekend. And that's a cool thing because essentially there's a huge fund for hotel tax and, softball, soccer tournaments, all that stuff. There's a huge fund that you can pull from through the county or the city, depending on how they set it up, to pay for some of that stuff. And the only thing you really have to prove is that people are getting hotels. Like, you don't have to prove that there's like 200 people a weekend getting a hotel, but you just have to prove that it's a destination place that people are getting hotel rooms for. And then there's a general fund that you can kind of pull some money out of.
Oh, so nice.
That opens up a whole new like side of funding for a lot of places. So that was pretty cool. And the city, like, all the dudes at Horns, like, when we started building the stuff in the back, like Jurassic Trail and Slim Shady, like, we were moving, like, we were using a 50 series excavator and a skid steer for a lot of it. So, like, I mean, we moved a lot of dirt. I mean, it looks beautiful. We sowed it with seed and straw, and, like, the back slopes are awesome. Like, but, like, the first time some of the guys came out there, they're like, oh boy. Like, they were super worried about the city being like, well, you guys probably should tame it down. But, like, the city came out, dude, and they saw all of it. We took them all around in the side-by-sides, and they were, like, blown away. Like, they're like, this is awesome, you know?
You're going to be the mayor.
And I was like, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, because I do not want to undo none of this.
They're gonna put you a statue with an axe out front.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
But
they're talking about for next year. They're talking about letting people camp, and they're going to do some more races and stuff up there. So
yeah, that's what I was going to get to. So was 2020 their first race ever there?
No, back in the day, we used to do the old the Horns Hill, the Ohio Downhill Series.
Okay.
So it would be Horns Hill for one day, and then so it was a weekend. We'd do Horns Hill one day, and we'd do Mohican Wilderness one day. And those were Ohio Downhill Fest. So you can probably still Google it and find it somewhere online.
Yeah. So do you, on like features, do you prefer, I should say, you like to use the dirt, or would you rather use wood, or it just depends?
I like to use dirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even with like big drops?
Or
rocks or something?
We did the big ladder drop. We used wood just because we wanted, like, it's a proper drop. I mean, we made it 8 foot wide so people could pull 360s and stuff off of it easily.
Dang.
Like, it's big and wide, and it was just a perfect spot. Like, we did this massive step up into a hillside, and then there's kind of a catch berm, and then you kind of jump right back off the hillside. So it was like perfect scenario to where you could just do a big ladder bridge and get people out a little bit further to make it higher. I like to use dirt whenever I can, just because it's typically pretty free.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start building, pressure treated 4x6s, and I got this. We use this real cool wood for the decking. It's 2-inch rough cut. Typically, I use cedar. On this particular project, we used a different wood that's it's thermally modified wood, which essentially they take the wood and they cook it in a kiln up to like 190 degrees or something. They basically cook it until all the organic matter's gone from the wood, almost semi-petrifying it.
Wow. And
that makes it last like 20 years because there's nothing organic for a bug to want to eat. So it lasts a really long time. But it's pretty cool. Pretty much any wood that you do thermally modifying to, it makes it look like walnut. It just makes it look like this dark brown, like charred wood. But it's cool. We'll see what it does.
Has anybody ever used, like, I'm thinking like Trex? Has anybody ever tried using that?
No. Trex is
too flex?
Not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's heavy and it warps. You have to have a lot of support under it. You'd have to put a ton of bracing in. Like, you'd have to do 16 inches on center probably to keep it from warping.
Yeah. I was just curious about that. So, like, back to the funding, it seems like, Horns just said, hey, we're going, but I don't know, other places seems like they just kind of wait and see. Is that just I don't know, more aggressive, just like let's go, versus I don't know how to explain it.
Man, I've had this question a lot because obviously I work with a lot of local like mountain bike organizations, and they all ask the same thing. They're like, dude, like, what is up with that place? Like, how and why? And I'm just like, it's an anomaly. Like, it's just a perfect scenario, a super small group of dudes that all shred, and they all are super driven to get something done, and they have the means to make it happen. Definitely more of an beg for forgiveness and ask for permission kind of group, and just a we'll figure it out kind of thing. I don't want to. It's definitely not the same scale as Bentonville, but it's similar in the fact that there's just this micro group of dudes that are down to just,
Yeah.
If it's going to take, like, what's it going to take? 15, 20 grand? Okay, let's do it. We'll figure it out. We'll get the money together. And they're just like, okay, we're just going to keep building then, And then 25, 30 grand shows up, and you're just like, yep, it's all good, So I think that it's super helpful. They're very transparent about everything they do. They post stuff on their Facebook page all the time. Like, that's all they have. They don't have, like, a website or any of that shit. Like, just a Facebook page that they started at the beginning of the year.
And what's that called? Just Horns Hill?
Horns Hill Mountain Biking.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's got like 2,000 people or something on it. Like, it grew pretty fast, but I just think they're like super good at telling the story. Their GoFundMe, I think their GoFundMe raised like $6,000 or something, which is pretty good. But that also, while the $6,000 was going on, they raised like 20-something thousand. They met their goal, and I think we start next year with like $30,000 still. So we still got some stuff to build in the spring.
So I've heard other mountain bikers talk about this, and I don't know if there's a perfect answer. Starting a mountain bike club Patreon page, or I guess GoFundMe is literally the same thing. Do you think that's a way? Obviously, they've done it. Do you see that going or happening more?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe if the user like area is big enough,
right,
it might work. Most of the Patreon pages are only successful because they're linked to like massive YouTube accounts.
Right.
Like the Seth Bike Hacks dude, they just did the berm thing. Like, he raised a bunch of money through Patreon, but like he also has like 1 million subscribers or something, some ridiculous number. Like, that's all he makes his money off of YouTube. So, I mean, I still think there's definitely the best thing that any city could do is just build relationships with local city officials, private business owners. Most of the success from Horns came from private donors. Like, a very small portion of it came from the city, and that is a huge thing. I mean, the city, once they realized that we were serious and that we were going to do what we said we were going to do, they started kicking in. Like, every $4,000 we raised, they would put in 1,000. So they'd make our 4,000, 5,000.
Damn.
Which was, I mean, in the scheme, that's 20%, right? So that's good, you know. And then once we start filling hotel rooms next year, they're going to be able to pull from that, you know, which is cool. And they're kind of like, what's a maintenance budget look like? You know, don't care if it's 10 or 20. We just kind of need to know what it is so we can plan for it, you know. So they're fully on board with making sure that it stays maintained, which is good. But Patreon, I'm not sure yet. I mean, GoFundMe pages and stuff are like, I think they're Band-Aids for a larger problem. In the mountain biking world. I mean, I've never really seen one that was super successful where someone just started a GoFundMe campaign and it like raised hundreds of thousands of dollars and they built something cool.
These dudes down in I think it's Perrysburg, Kentucky.
Yeah.
They started a GoFundMe. I don't know how much they raised, or they have a Patreon for a club.
Yeah.
And they just put it to the trails. Like, once again, I don't know how much they raised, but it just made me think of that, like those guys.
That's the new jump trails in Sugar Camp or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Andrew Parsons.
Yeah.
Him and his boys have been building down there.
Yeah, so they started a Patreon or GoFundMe, and that, I mean, like I said, I don't know what they've raised, but I guess it's something, you know, because that's no man's land too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not, it's definitely viable, but it's not sustainable.
Right.
You know, it's a good way to get a project off the ground and then get to the point where you're like, what now? You know, you need to have some more serious backing. You know, if the city's not fully invested in it and on board with it, ultimately it's going to fail.
What about, has anybody ever just done this park's like sponsors, like full on, like, doesn't matter, whatever, just sponsor all the trails, like whatever it'll be advertised on the park? Have you seen that?
Yeah, we kind of did that. They did that a little bit at the Lebanon Bike Park.
Okay.
When we built that, like, Trek supplied some, Trek sponsored some stuff. The local Rotary Club sponsored a trail. And there's like little, signs with the logos and stuff as you enter the trail saying this trail is, funding provided by, which is that's a good way to get started. But also, we talked about that at Horns because there's some people that wanted to, try to pay for a trail. And we were kind of like, it's a city park. Like, just donate some money to the general fund and we can put up a bunch of, logos on the sign. And so far everyone's been cool with that. I mean, it's that way it kind of keeps it like if someone say a trail's going to cost $30,000 to build and someone puts up $30,000, like how long is that $30,000 useful? Like what happens 5 years from now? Like, is that trail still going to be called the Trek Bike Store Trail?
Yeah.
Just because they made a one-time donation and they didn't do anything for the other 4. Like, so it kind of, if you can just do the supporters plaques on the signage out front that can rotate and change as things evolve, I think that's the best way to do it. Unless you can get like into a contract situation where a company's going to pony up money and then support it for the next 5 years.
Or you just got the Walmart money and you just have blank checks.
It's like we need this, and this, and it just shows up on a truck.
There's a clothing brand, actually, speaking of Seth Bike Hacks, I think he's sponsored by him, called Cognitive MTB. And then if you go to their website, they have a link to I don't know how much money is, but they say, hey, when we reach $10,000, it's going to be donated to some trails. Well, they just reached that goal.
Really?
And I don't know where they're going to tie it to, but yeah. So that's pretty interesting.
I'd say where are they located? Do you have any idea?
They're in Asheville.
Okay, probably gonna stay down there.
Yeah.
I'd say the Berm bike park just got $10,000.
yeah,
Although
sure.
I think that Berm's fully funded.
Yeah.
Last I heard.
I thought
when I had some surplus money, so
I thought it was going to be his. I watched the video, but it's actually like an old park, or was it NASCAR used to own it or something like that? Yeah. So there's this place. I just thought about this. There's this place 40 miles outside Asheville, and I don't know how I came across this. I don't know, on the internet. You go down these wormholes, but it used to be a tourist attraction called Ghost Town on the Mountain.
Really?
In Maggie Valley. It's sitting vacant. It has a ski lift or whatever you want to call it that goes to the top, and there's like an old town up top. That's supposed to be like, like a shootout town. And then there's like a welcome center at the bottom. This place is for sale. We just need somebody with some cash to buy it.
I bet you need some cash. Right.
I think
Maggie Valley does not sound cheap.
Yeah, I think they're asking, I don't know, $5.9 million, but it's 250 acres, and I was like, God, if someone could just figure out something.
What's the chairlift situation? Does it look rideable?
So
it needs some service.
It needs some service. The last it ran was 2013, so it's not terribly old, but
that's older than Huffy wants to get on. I think I'm gonna pass on that one. Let you go first.
Yeah. So I was like, God, I mean, that's just like to have like a bike park just outside Asheville. I mean, I don't know where the closest one is right now, but I guess Beach Mountain. But
if served would be Beach, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was like, God, I feel like it's just begging for it, but I don't know. It's just a thought.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I didn't have a couple people. About once a month, I get somebody sends me a link to a used ski lift for sale.
Oh, really?
To put it up at Horns or wherever, And I mean, some of those guys at Horns have talked about trying to find a bigger piece of property to build more stuff on. I think there's definitely opportunity for it.
What about, remember Ski Butler? I never went there, but that place just sits, doesn't it?
Okay, you're now the fourth person this week that's told me that they need trails there. So there is.
I didn't even think about. I just
there is a movement right now to get more trails in the local state parks. So.
And what town is that?
That's Carrollton.
Yeah.
So 45 minutes south of Cincy.
Yeah.
So it's like smack dab in the middle between Cincy and Louisville. Lexington's not far, so it'd be a good location. Some
Yeah.
pretty good terrain too. I think the lift's gone though, isn't it?
I've never been there.
I think the lift's gone, which that's okay.
I know our buddy Bill. He's like in his 50s. He said he used to race like downhill there.
Yeah, they used to have races down all the time back in the day. So
you just bought an e-bike.
yes, I did.
What'd you go with, and why'd you go with this? Or
I'd been e-bike curious for a while, and I had that crazy crash in 2016, so my knee kind of got just shredded. I don't have an ACL or a PCL on my right leg.
do you want to talk about that for a second? Not really.
I mean, it's just a BMX crash. You
Yeah.
know, just nothing really, not even an epic crash. It was just
You were in
one of
a
those-
race,
Yeah,
weren't you?
it was a race at Freedom Hall. Just looped out and landed weird, and that was it. No cool stories, and no cool video. But it made it super difficult to ride. You know, much more painful. Not as much fun. Climbing was not fun at all. And I'd ridden a couple e-bikes, and I was like, man, I think I'll get one of those one day. You know, and I just been busting my ass building trails and saving money, and was kind of at a point in my life where that one was just, I bought a Rocky Mountain Instinct BC edition.
Yeah.
So pretty special colorway just for this year. Yeah, I mean, it was in stock. My buddy Merritt down at Recycles in Greensboro, it was in stock. Which says a lot. Like, they're hard to find right now, you know. And it was like my size, some colorway I wanted. Kind of thought was pretty rad. And yeah, just pulled the pin on it. It's awesome. So,
Yeah, actually, I rode a Rocky Mountain Instinct not e-bike, but I freaking loved it.
yeah.
Pretty fun bike.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of spur of the moment. My buddy was going to buy one too. Merritt had a carbon one that was there that he wanted, and all the Horns dudes were down at Canoga riding, and we're like, dude, can you go meet them at Canoga and just give them our bikes and they can bring them back, you know? So it was like literally like within a day, it all just happened, you know.
Nice.
And now it's like I'm pumped. Like,
So
I'm bummed at the weather, but
29 or 27.5.
it's a 29er.
Nice.
Which I'm still on the fence about.
Why is that?
It just feels weird.
Yeah.
It just does.
Feels big. Like,
Yeah, it feels. I mean, I'm used to 26. I mean, the
Yeah.
last time I really like rode hardcore, I was riding like 26-inch downhill bikes,
yeah.
and then like I mean, I had a Tracer 275 and a Bronson for a little while, but really hadn't ridden any 29ers that were fun. Like, this one's fun. Like, I mean, even like kind of climbing hills, you giggle. You know.
Yeah.
Like this, you shouldn't be giggling right now because you're climbing a hill. But since you're climbing it at like 15 miles an hour, it's not that bad. You know.
I remember my first 29er, the first one I rode, I test rode it, I should say. I felt like I was super high. Like,
Yeah.
not high, like I was like under the influence high. But I felt like I was just way higher than I should have been. I was like, this isn't right. Like, this doesn't feel. I felt like, yeah. So I was like, nope. And then
Yeah. That's how I always remembered 29ers. Real high, center of gravity, turned
Yeah.
real weird. This one's not. I mean,
They fixed it.
Sets in there. I mean, I honestly think that the e-bike part, the motor being in the crank area, like this lower center of gravity, like helps all that.
yeah,
I considered going mullet just because I've talked to a few dudes that have, and they love it.
that's 27 rear, right? 29 front.
Yeah, 27 and a half in the rear, 29 front. Or that bike will also take a 27 plus tire.
Okay.
So, got some options. 27 plus. I had a Chameleon 27 plus that was pretty rad. I had fun with it. So, we'll see. I didn't get. Unfortunately, I got it right at the end of the year. And
Yeah.
now it's kind of have to travel south to ride it. But
So will horns be? I guess it almost has to be e-bike access or e-bike. You can use it there.
yeah, oh yeah, you can self shuttle with an e-bike, no problem. They don't have. There's a huge group of e-bikers there. They actually have like acoustic day and they have electric day. So like, there's days when everyone just shows up on their e-bikes and rides, and then they're like, it's acoustic practice only, so pedal bikes only, you know. So all the new stuff that we built is all linkable and pedalable. Like all the climbs are machine built on like a 2% grade. So like super easy climbing.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy at all. Like you can navigate all the back end stuff super easy. But the front, shuttling sucks if you don't have an e-bike. So
what do you have for plan for 2021 besides horns?
Oh man. So I had a bunch of contracts recently. So I get subbed out a lot from other bigger companies to build. I had one out in California kind of fall through the cracks. Just contractors' licenses out there are crazy.
Yeah,
just wasn't going to work. And then,
would you had to wear a mask? You think?
I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to that's the other thing. Like traveling out, like California just shut a bunch of stuff back down. Like I think they just closed all their restaurants again. So, I mean. This one was right on the edge of a subdivision, so I don't think it wouldn't have been in like a city park or anything, so probably wouldn't have had to. But I'm trying to think of. We just had a kind of a shitty. We were bidding on a big project down in Madisonville, Kentucky. That was 7 miles across country, 2 half-mile downhill trails that already have a paved road to the top. So they're like fully shuttleable, and we got beat out by a company in Bentonville. They actually the city went with a bid 30 grand larger than ours for a non-local company. Which who knows why? I mean, the company that got they're not really predominantly known for being able to build flow trails. So. We'll see what happens. Hopefully the project goes well because I really want to see some cooler shit in Kentucky. Although this one was in Madisonville, Kentucky, which is like 4 hours from us.
Yeah, so where's that?
Like almost it's past Hopkinsville. It's like land between the lakes. Like
yeah.
So I'm like, my wife was like, "Man, that would have been cool for you to have a Kentucky job." I'm like, "It's actually closer to work at Horns. Like it's 4 hours, you know, like 4 plus hauling machines." So. I mean, it's just there are some weird things with the bid on it. The city was more involved, and they took some liberties, you know, that made it harder for the local mountain biking club, and it was just, you know, they went with the people they felt best with. But sounds like I'll be going to Huntsville, Alabama next to do some
on their
NICA trails.
What's that place called?
It's a big golf course that they're redoing.
Oh, I was going to say, they have some existing trails. I forget that's
this is a new trail system. It's a new NICA system there. And then it sounds like we got some more PBR parks to build. 2 in Georgia and 1 in Virginia. And then there's some stuff down in Jacksonville, Florida, like a hiking trail. That's probably going to all happen like before Horns again. And then I don't know. There's some stuff at White Oak Mountain. So
I just rode there.
Yeah. So one of the guys that has me come on with his build crews a lot, Barry Smith.
Yeah.
He's out of Chattanooga. He builds awesome trails, and love working with Barry. He's an awesome dude too. Like he's just a cool guy. So he's been doing it forever. Super well respected. So it's great when Barry calls me. It's always a good project, and I don't have to worry about anything. I just know it's going to be show up and build and just put out the mileage, you know. So
yeah, White Oak's pretty fun.
Yeah,
there's some good flow there.
Yeah. He built all that. He just built Buzzard Roost, down in Dalton, Georgia area.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's a bunch of trails there. They just finished up. He's been, Hickory, North Carolina, did some stuff there. So, yeah, he stays busy. Like between there's a guy in Georgia, Aaron. He has a company called Tailored Trails. Between them and Barry and myself, like, kind of don't have enough hours in the day.
Yeah. So. Where in the past, I don't know, we'll say 3 to 5 years, I'm sure, what do you think it's ramped up to of not even just flow, just mountain bike trails in general? Have you seen, where do you think you saw the spike? How long ago? Or you think it's just a constant?
I would say around 2015 is when bike parks started, like Valmont started showing up, like in, what was that, like 13, 14-ish?
Yeah.
So like Valmont, pump tracks, like the bike park craziness started going. And then, like, I don't know, what was it? Yeah, 2015 is when we built the one in Burlington at EI.
Yep.
And then kind of just the bike park started going crazy, and then flow trails started, like, really catching on, like 2017.
Yeah.
A lot of builders started coming out of the woodwork. A lot more machine-built flow trails, bigger jumps, bigger berms, wider trail. It kind of, up until that point, it was like machine-built, like you had to keep it like the little, 17 series pulled in to 3 feet and, like, don't take, try not to hurt the woods kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then, like, dudes started showing up with, like, 25s and 35s and big machines and, all kinds of skid steers and canny comms for hauling dirt around, and kind of changed the game a little bit, And there's some good builders out there, and there's still some people that have some work to do, but man, there's more trail builders right now than ever. So,
yeah, if you guys build XC, do you do any machine? Is it all hand stuff?
Yeah, we do. When we do the XC, our XC still has a little bit of flow to it. We pull the machines in if we have to, but most of them are 42 inches or 36 inches. They'll pull down to, and more or less it's just less aggressive flow. We still like to cut all the drains with the machines and blade them out so they stay. It's just way more sustainable.
Yeah.
And, you can dig down to the non-organic stuff and the trail stays hardened longer, and you can ride it more times longer throughout the year. So even if we're doing like longer stretches with no rollers and like jumps, we'll still harden it and blade it right. So
have you ever talked to somebody want XC and you're like, nah, man, you want this flow stuff? That's the new wave.
Yeah, I try to as much as I can. If the budget allows it, like sometimes it's just not in the budget,
Yeah.
And I've even been in situations where people have a certain budget, and I'm like, you guys just need to like either phase this trail out and do sections at a time, or like just keep fundraising until you get what you need. Like there's no sense in rushing it. Like if it takes another year to raise all the funds that you need to make it like exactly what you want, like just do that. As long as you're not jeopardizing the like losing some money because it's a grant. So
when people want to add to their already existing trails, are they looking just to add 1 mile besides horns, obviously, or like do they have a grant like, hey, we just want to build one more trail, or is it usually composed of multiple things?
Usually by the time we get involved, like the local mountain bike association, whether it's SORBA or whatever, has already kind of formulated a plan. They either have some GPS tracks on a map that they've walked, or they have ideas. Sometimes it's just a bunch of squiggly lines and you're like, this is going straight up a hill, this ain't going to work, but it's just an idea. Basically, they just kind of come up with like, this is what kind of our idea. let's go check the property out. Tell me what you think. And then from there, it's like, all right, now that you've seen it, what do you think and what's it going to cost us, you know? And at that point, I kind of can say, I think the best thing for this area is A, or I think this best thing in this area is B, and then give them some pricing and let them start fundraising.
This is just I don't know. I guess it's my thoughts or who I talk to. Do you think there should be a transition? A transition of leader or whatever whoever runs, SORBA, CORA, whoever. You think like there should be every 4, whatever, how many years, 6 years, they should do a transition of power or transition of leadership?
Yeah, I think most of them. I mean, they're nonprofits, and they do have the certain rules. I think most of them are 2-year terms, and typically I think you can run 2 consecutive terms, and then that's it.
Really?
So you have to go down.
So is that voted on?
Yeah, essentially. It depends on how the nonprofits laws are. Some of them are appointed. Sometimes it's succession. So like the vice president will become the president. The secretary will become the vice president. Or there's like rules for that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think it's important that things continue to evolve and people get comfortable and stale.
Yeah.
So, I mean, locally, CORA, they've kind of hit a head wall with some people lately just because people feel like it's a lot of the same. They are making changes. I've actually been meeting with CORA quite a bit lately, and they do have a bunch of changes and some pretty exciting stuff. I mean, they're going to have a new president soon, and
breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. I mean, I don't know. It's a big deal. I mean, they're due for it. They got some new officers that they're naming. I think I don't know, Monday, 28th. So whenever, look for that one. And then they're talking full on. They got some. The thing is, they have a lot more stuff going on than people know. And so what I've kind of worked on them with is, like, I'm a local dude. I've grown up and I've lived here my whole life, and I'm a trail builder that spends like 80% of my time away from home. Like I'm offering my help to like help bridge the gap between the old regime of CORA and the new regime of riders that drive 4 hours away from Cincinnati to have fun. Mm-hmm. And kind of what happened was a couple Zoom meetings, realized that CORA actually has an entire portion of their website that is future projects. So like you can go on their website, they're working on updating it, but there's a ton of stuff already on there. They've got like 6 or 7 projects that they've been working on. Like, so kind of just boils down to being better at telling their story and like updating their group as to what they're doing. Like
more transparent.
Yeah, more transparency. Like that's it. Like people, whether it's we raised $40,000 this year, that went into a fund and it's on hold until we get X amount of dollars to do the project. When people are working with a nonprofit, which CORA is a nonprofit, super limited amount of people involved for the most part. Time is super scarce. The storytelling part falls on the wayside. Like even when I did Riding Forward, which still is a thing this year, COVID kind of killed it because our whole point was to get kids in groups and go ride in schools. So that none of that happened. But I was terrible at it too. I was so passionate about doing the actual thing that I created the nonprofit to do that I didn't take the time to do the storytelling part to let other people know what the heck was going on half the time. Luckily, I have an amazing wife that tried to like keep up with social media and stuff for me. But so, I mean, the end of the day, Cora's talking about machine building, like maintenance days. They've like not even considered it. They're already like working on dates to do it, like getting a machine for a weekend and going in and actually building and having people help versus doing manual labor all the time. We've talked about taking some relatively iconic trails in the area, and we had a meeting on Friday, a Zoom meeting, and I essentially said, what if we took Trail X and made that a downhill directional trail and built a climbing trail back to the top? Like, make it just one way. Like, when all these trails were built, they've been built for two directions, and I was like, how many times do you have complaints about people climbing and running into somebody coming down? Like, in my opinion, a directional trail, if you try to make a directional trail that's unidirectional, it's 50% less fun, you know? So if you have, and they've got a couple of really good trails, you know, right in the heart of some of their best trail systems that could easily have climbing trails to the top or already do, and they could make them just one way and reshape some stuff and fortify jumps and make them better because you don't have to worry about someone coming up it, and they could be awesome. And as soon as I mentioned it, like, everyone in the Zoom meeting was kind of like their eyes lit up to like, damn, that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
So like they're fully on board. Like, Fox Run Golf Course is now a park.
Where's that at?
That is in Kenton County.
Okay.
Over near Independence. And it's 225 acres. They are in the planning stages of building complete bike trails all throughout that place.
Really?
Yeah. So that's a big one. I'm super involved in that.
Is that going to be like paved trails or dirt trails?
No, it's going to be all machine built, like, bike trails.
So I guess my question is, I guess it's pretty open though, right? Since it's a golf course.
There's lots of wooded areas in between, which make it pretty sweet.
Okay.
So you're going to have a good chance. It's a good best case scenario, really, because a lot of the open fields, like, you're going to be able to build some big stuff with skid steers and bigger machines.
Mm-hmm.
So you can build fast, but build big. And then you can tighten them down in the woods, utilize that stuff. And they want to put a pump track and stuff there too. So I think it'll be a 225 acre bike park, essentially, with a lot of paved paths too, if people want to use them for getting A to B or whatever.
Yeah.
But it has really, really good potential. And I've already pushed Cora to not rush to anything and, phase it out if it needs to be phased out. And, even to the point where it's like, if it takes $15,000, $20,000 to buy a couple semis of rock to make a section, like, make it feel like someone's in Tennessee riding, like, do it.
Yeah.
For the spend, it's going to be way worth it to, like, invest in that and make it something like the rider, the rider experience that much better. So
that'd be sweet.
Yeah. So I guess this is my official, like, I am on board with going for 2021, and I mean, what more can you ask for, man? Like, if I'm in town, I'm gonna be trying to get the machines out there to help. We're gonna be working on some training to get some of the local trail stewards up to speed on machine building. So if I'm not here, they can grab a machine from somewhere and carry the torch. So,
speaking of that, do trail stewards ever change hands, or how would that change hands?
That's a good question. I don't know that one. I mean, I think trail stewards, historically, the way you bump out a trail steward is you work harder than they do. Right? So most of the trail stewards are pretty tenacious dudes. That's really the only way. I mean, unless one moves or like steps down, like if you want someone else's, it's like the Viking days, man. Like if you want that dude's spot, you got to outwork him, you know? So
good to know.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense though, right? You
know,
why would they ask somebody that's out there working, you know, week on week on week for some dude that says he's going to come in and do a better job? Like here's your ad, so go prove it, you know? So
are stewards, do they do layout at all?
Yeah, a lot of them do. And we talked about that a little bit. I mean, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. Like I was pretty open and I was very upfront in my first meeting with Cora, because I was just, you know, Mike, you guys are just gonna have to take this one on the chin, and then we can shake hands and move on, you know. And that's pretty much what happened. I was, you know, one of the biggest things is variety for me. Like you can't expect people to get excited about the same stuff over and over, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where they're at now. They see a major need for getting trails that families can ride together, which are, I mean, that's Flow Trail, mm-hmm. you know, whether it's green trail or blue or whatever. A family can ride a blue Flow Trail, no problem. The beginners pump stuff and the experts jump it, you know? Right. So that's the beauty of it. And they 100% see that, you know? They're fully on board with it, and they're going to work on their storytelling portion a little better and let people know what they got going on. You know, like they got a lot of projects they've fundraised for. You know, some of them, Mount Airy is a prime example. They've been working on, you know, funding this, you know, skills park or whatever out there that they've mentioned a couple of times. Like a lot of the reasoning that they don't really talk about it much is because their hands are so tied. Like the city has limitations, like you have to get to a certain amount of funding, like percentage wise. So if the project's $150,000, like you have to get at least $100,000 fundraised before you can even talk about it publicly.
Holy
like
shit.
In media or whatever, because they don't want it to look bad on them if it doesn't come through, kind of one of those situations. So, you know, I kind of just said, like, okay, well, you guys can't talk about it, but I can talk about it, you know, mm-hmm. Like it's already, obviously it's in the works. It's public knowledge that it's in the works. So like, that's one of the biggest things is like, don't take that burden on as Cora if it's not your, you know, it's not your fault. You can't talk about it. Like, so, like, I mean, it's little stuff like that, but it goes a long way with your users and your members. So, yeah.
Well, I want to talk about one more thing that I don't know shit about, but I want you to talk about your brand, the Rough Rod Company. Oh, since that's your company, you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. The Wolf Rod Company that's my side project. You know, that's what I do when I want to relax, go fly fishing. So
yeah,
it's been going well. I mean, I haven't been pushing it super hard, but sales are going well, and the brand's definitely getting noticed. And yeah, it's fun. Got 7 models out now, mm-hmm. and they've been selling pretty well. Actually getting ready to sell out of one of them. I already got another order of 50 coming, so that's cool. And it was a pretty crazy year for fly fishing. A lot of people wanting to go out fishing.
What's the best way to reach you on that?
That's wolfrodco.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It plays in very well to mountain biking. most of the places where we go build, Tennessee, like there's streams, like
Yeah.
I can cut off early one day or at the end of the day, get some sunlight left and slip into a creek and fly fish for a little bit. So
What do you,
nice.
you're mostly, are you fly fishing for? What style fish?
Man, mostly my fish of choice is muskie.
Okay.
That's what I go after, which is, they call it the fish of 10,000 casts because they're almost impossible to catch. And then you try to do it with a fly rod, and it's even harder.
So I just found out this year about the banana and boat thing.
Oh, yeah? You didn't know about the banana?
I didn't have one,
Yeah.
but I've just heard about it. So,
okay.
Which is, if you ever go fishing, don't ever bring banana. I guess that's fisherman's.
Apparently, it's an old wives' tale that back in the day, bananas brought insects across the oceans on boats.
Really?
So it was like the way they transported like poisonous spiders and things like that. So it was like bad luck to have. You didn't want to be the boat that had to haul the bananas, basically. There's actually, I think it's pretty funny. There's actually an Instagram page called Banana Good Luck, and it's all fishermen that have the bananas in their boats, or like they catch a massive fish and they have a banana in their mouth while they're holding this huge fish. So it's kind of like a play on, like let's get past this. Like, it's 2020. We can eat a banana in our boat and it's not going to sink, so.
That's funny. And then how can people reach you or check out your trail building?
Oh, man, that's so funny. So I was literally on the way here, I was talking to a dude that's like wanting to build a website for us and stuff. And I'm so bad at like documenting things. Like the only reason Horns is so well documented is because there's so many dudes up there that are like YouTubers and have cameras and like whatever. But like of all the years that I've been building, like I started machine building trails in 2007. I like rarely take pictures, or if I do, they're like, back then it was like a flip phone or like my iPhone. Like I don't have like a professional crew like following me around with like digital cameras and shit taking pictures, so I don't really have content to build a website. Like, and I'm like, I turn away work every year, so it's like, I guess either me on my personal page, Innovative Dirt Solutions does have a Facebook page, but it's at a cross points for me. It's like, man, do I really feel like I need to invest like $3 or $4 grand in building a website to like showcase myself? I'm bad at selling myself anyways. Like I feel like anytime I am up against one of those big glossy like companies that has social media and website, like their trails aren't better.
Right.
Like they have cooler pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. I like to let my work just do the talking.
Yeah, I'm in the process of building a site too, and they're like, send me some pictures. I'm like, what?
Yeah. New shirts are sweet too, by the way.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
I like the new logo. Like
yeah.
The new designs.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're working on getting you the one you asked for.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm building the site, and I'm like, but what if you just do like say you're building, I don't know, one of your trails, just set a GoPro up on a time lapse.
I've thought about it. I have a GoPro 8 Black.
Yeah.
Like I've had GoPros like since they came out, and I'm the dude that buys it and uses it once, and then I'm like, I'm not doing it. That's too much work. Like I don't have time to screw with this. I'm trying to build something.
Well, that's like if I go riding, I'm like, I have it all like kind of ready, but not like ready, and then someone's like, you ready? You ready to ride? You ready to ride? I'm like, screw it, I'll just ride. I don't care. And I don't ever put it on.
It's the same with me. I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, I'm here to build a trail, and like, I just want to get it. I want to get in here and get it done. Like I did buy some of these crazy like mount things to like wrap the thing around trees and stuff.
Yeah.
So like maybe 2021 is the year the time lapse for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've often thought about like I have a ram mount too. Like I could put a ram mount on like the cab of my excavator and like just time lapse my day.
Yeah, I mean, I think you also you have enough riders up there for like, hey man, here's my GoPro. Can you just go set it up over there while we work on here?
Yeah.
I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, it would be cool. Like, especially some of I did a pretty cool rock section up at Horns this year, and I did that would have been a perfect time to do it because I did a before and after picture, and it was crazy the amount of comments I got about how they're like, holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You're like a magician, and I'm like, I mean, I wish I would have time lapsed that.
Right.
So people could watch it because. I mean, it was cool looking, start to finish. At the beginning of the morning, I was like...
I saw it. I really thought...
You remember that?
Yeah. I was those rocks are going to hit those cars.
Yeah, there's literally, it was on the edge of a cliff. And, I mean, so my other operator, Ethan Quell, he's the one that, benched all that out and farmed it and got it ready for me to come in with my smaller machine and the thumb. And he had already chucked a couple of rocks off that hill and had to run down the hill and, throw them off the road. So... The whole time I'm thinking dude, I'm literally flirting with disaster with this little thumb on this bucket, because he was using a big machine. So, it turned out sweet though. People,
oh yeah.
One of the main dudes was all like, "Build me a rock garden. We need some rocks." And then he showed up after I was done. He's like, "All right, take them out." No, take these out. I was like, they're staying, he was obviously kidding, but he was like, no, I didn't mean this many rocks.
When you build a rock garden, is there a design, or is it kind of just man, that looks good?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a method to the madness. You want to use bigger rocks as anchor rocks. You want to bury those. Those are kind of the anchor rocks are kind of the ones that you don't want to move that will force a rider to go in a certain angle or direction, and then you kind of use the other rocks to kind of just make it a level of difficulty that you want. So bigger gaps, bigger drops, bigger holes for your wheel to fall in. It just depends on the terrain. I mean, I've even paved trail with rock. It wasn't even super tough, but it was just smooth and armored. So there's definitely a little method to it to make it right. And, getting them to where they don't move is the key.
Man, I remember going through rock gardens on a hardtail cross-country bike. I'm like, I fucking hate these things.
Oh, yeah.
And then once your mindset kind of, now that I'm on a more enduro-style trail bike, now you're just kind of let's just rip through this thing.
I'll never forget, we went to Moab one year, and a bunch of the dudes, it was right when Carbon 275 bikes were coming out. My buddy Joe, what's up, Joe Mama? He had this crazy carbon bike with carbon wheels, and we just fly out there, and I rented a Norco Range or something from the Moab bike store, Chili Pepper. That's where we went. I rented a bike. I'm like, dude, we're doing the whole enchilada, start to finish. I am not bringing my bike, my brand new bike with carbon wheels and stuff out here. And I'll never forget it. We climbed Burro Pass. It was September, and I was in the shuttle truck. And I mean, Moab's pretty hot in September.
Right.
But where we were going Burro Pass is 11,000 feet.
Yeah. And
we're in the truck, and we're in this shuttle van, and I'm wearing shorts and I'm wearing a long sleeve vented jersey, and everyone's looking at me like, dude, you're wearing a jersey, you're wearing long sleeves, you're crazy, I'm like, oh, it's September, boys, you just wait, So they drop you off, and you coast down for a mile, and then you get to where Burro Pass starts, and you go through this little cattle gate, and it's I can't remember exactly how far it is, but I think it's 1.8 miles, and you climb 1,800 vertical feet in a mile.
Holy cow!
It's a freaking get off and push climb. It sucked. And about halfway up the mountain, snow started coming.
Holy shit!
Everyone's looking at me. I'm like, yeah, you guys making fun of my long sleeve jersey now, are you? So we get to the top. It was just a blow kind of snowstorm just blew through. And then on the backside of Burro Pass, it's probably 3 miles of downhill, single track. and there's these like baby head, like bowling ball size rocks just everywhere. And I dropped in, and Joe dropped in behind me, and we get to the bottom, and he's like, dude, you were fucking chucking rocks everywhere. He's like, it was like a grenade was going off the entire trail. There's rocks going everywhere, you know? And I'm like, dude, it's a rental, you know?
Yeah.
I was like letting her eat, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's how you got to get through these things, you know? He's like, every time I turned a corner, there's just rocks, like, rolling around. Like, it was like a moving trail. I was like, you should have dropped in before me, you know? But, yeah, I get it, man. Riding rocks is fun, and, yeah, I don't know. I like building rock gardens. Some people don't. Like, my other operator, Ethan, dude, he would build a 400-foot-long tabletop before he wanted to mess with rocks. He just doesn't like doing rock work.
Really?
It takes a different level of, like, patience, I think. But yeah, man.
Well, cool, man. Hey, man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving us the breaking news.
Oh, yeah, dude. No, I'm excited for it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's been a long time coming. The folks in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, like...
You saw kind of like... Or I guess you heard the frustrations coming out.
Yeah. I mean, you know, as a trail builder, especially as a local trail builder, anytime I post a picture, like, yeah, I mean, I was getting like 5-10 messages every time, like, man, I wish we could have that around here. You know,
yeah.
It's like, dude, you guys gotta show up. You know, so hopefully we're gonna give them something to show up for, and yeah, I mean. If I get out there and I start building and no one shows up, like, it's on them at that point. So
I don't think that will happen.
Show up out there.
I just hope Ski Butler, man. He got me kind of like excited for some kind of movement down there.
Dude, that place could be pretty epic.
Yeah,
so,
we'll see.
It's working.
Well, hey, man, have a good Christmas and yeah, have a good New Year. You got plans?
No, probably gonna. I don't really know.
Yeah,
my wife's off between Christmas and New Year's, so. I mean, probably hang out, and the life of a trail builder, man. I'm like a gypsy. Like 9 months out of the year, I'm gone. So
yeah, just a schedule here was kind of hard. Just to get you here.
Yeah. I mean, like the last 6 months, probably slept in my bed like 14 nights total. So it's rough.
Yeah.
But, trying to build a better future, right? So,
Yeah.
Not gonna work forever. So.
Well, hey, man, thanks, and. Keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'll see you. Thank you for watching this episode with Dave Huff and I. If you could, please like, subscribe, comment. It not only helps me, but it helps people find Dave for hopefully future trail builds. Until next time, peace.